A memorable day of my life. My name is Isabella, but everyone calls me Bella. I'm 28 years old, and for the past 5 years I've been living in Berlin, Germany, working as a software engineer. Life in Berlin has been exciting, full of challenges, new friendships, and a different culture that I've grown to love. But despite all the experiences and success, there was always a part of me that longed for home. Home for me is Toronto, Canada, where I was born and raised, where my heart truly belongs. After 5 long years, I finally decided it was time to go back. I had been working tirelessly, saving up my vacation days, and now I was ready to take a well-deserved break. The decision to return wasn't just about taking a holiday. It was about reconnecting with the people who mean the most to me, my family. The days leading up to my departure were a whirlwind of emotions. I packed and repacked my bags, trying to fit in gifts for everyone. Liam, my older brother who loves anything tech-related, Sophia, my younger sister who's a fashionista, and of course my parents. I bought chocolates, a handmade German clock, and a beautiful scarf for my mom. I wanted to bring a piece of Berlin back to them, a small token of the life I had built so far away. The flight from Berlin to Toronto felt endless. As the plane soared above the clouds, I couldn't help but think about all the changes that must have happened in my absence. 5 years is a long time. Long enough for my sister to start and finish college, for my brother to advance in his career, and for my parents to get older. I wondered if I would still recognize the home I had left behind. When the plane finally touched down in Toronto, my heart was pounding with excitement. I practically ran through the airport, eager to get through customs and baggage claim as quickly as possible. The moment I stepped outside, the familiar crisp air of Toronto hit me, and I felt a wave of nostalgia. I took a deep breath, savoring the moment. I was finally home. As I pulled up to our family house, my breath caught in my throat. The house looked the same as I remembered, but there was something different. A warmth, a glow that I hadn't seen before. I got out of the taxi, my hands trembling with anticipation. I was about to ring the doorbell when the door swung open, and I was greeted with a chorus of, "Welcome home, Bella." My family had decorated the entire house with colorful balloons, streamers, and a huge banner that read, "Welcome home, Isabella." The sight of it all brought tears to my eyes. I had missed them so much, and to see how much they had missed me too was overwhelming. My mom was the first to hug me, and I could feel the warmth of her love as she held me tight. "Bella, my darling, you're finally home," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. My dad was next, his eyes shining with pride as he kissed my forehead. Liam, my big brother, ruffled my hair just like he used to when we were kids, and Sophia practically jumped on me, giggling with excitement. As I stepped inside, I was immediately hit with the delicious aroma of my favorite dishes. My mom had gone all out. There was lasagna, homemade garlic bread, and a chocolate cake that looked like it came straight from a bakery. I could feel my mouth watering as I took it all in. "Surprised?" my mom asked, smiling as she led me to the dining table. "Mom, this is amazing," I said, still trying to wrap my head around everything. "I can't believe you did all this for me." "Of course we did," Liam said, giving me a playful nudge. "We've missed you like crazy." We all sat down to eat, and the meal was everything I had dreamed of and more. The lasagna was cheesy and rich, just the way I liked it. The garlic bread was crispy on the outside, soft on the inside, and perfectly buttery. And the chocolate cake. Oh, the cake was heavenly, with layers of rich, moist chocolate topped with a velvety ganache. I savored every bite, feeling like I was tasting home for the first time in years. As we ate, we talked and laughed, catching up on everything I had missed. Liam told me about his latest tech project at work. Something about developing a new app that was going to revolutionize the way people communicate. Sophia excitedly shared her experiences at college, showing me pictures of her fashion design projects. And my parents, they just listened, smiling, happy to have their family together again. After dinner, we moved to the living room, where my mom had set up a cozy spot with blankets and candles. The soft glow of the candles made everything feel warm and intimate. We continued our conversations there, reminiscing about the old days and sharing stories that made us all laugh until our sides hurt. As the night went on, I found myself sitting close to my mom, her arm around me as she stroked my hair. It was something she used to do when I was little, and it always made me feel safe and loved. I realized how much I had missed these simple moments, these little gestures that made me feel at home. "Bella, tell us more about your life in Berlin," my dad said, leaning back in his chair. "We want to hear everything." So I began to share stories about my life in Berlin, how I had learned to navigate the city, the friends I had made, and the challenges I faced at work. I told them about the German Christmas markets, the beautiful architecture, and the culture that was so different from what I had known in Toronto. But I also told them about the loneliness, the times when I missed home so much that it hurt, and how I had often thought about giving it all up and coming back. "But you didn't," my mom said softly, her eyes full of understanding. "You stayed strong, Bella, and we're so proud of you." Her words brought tears to my eyes again, and I leaned into her, feeling the love and support that had always been there, even when we were miles apart. As the night grew later, my mom suggested we head to bed, but I wasn't ready to let go of this moment. "Can I stay with you tonight, Mom?" I asked, my voice sounding small like a child's. "Of course, darling," she replied, her eyes softening. "Just like old times." We went up to her room, and I crawled into bed beside her, laying my head on her lap. It was a position I hadn't been in for years, but it felt so natural, so comforting. She began to stroke my hair again, and we continued talking, just the two of us. We talked about everything. My hopes, my fears, the dreams I had for the future. She listened patiently, offering advice and reassurance, just like she always had. At some point, I must have fallen asleep because when I woke up, the sun was already peeking through the curtains. I felt completely at peace, more rested than I had in years. My mom was still there, her hand resting gently on my head. I smiled, feeling a warmth in my heart that I hadn't felt in a long time. The days that followed were filled with joy and laughter. We spent time together as a family, doing all the things we used to do before I left. We visited our favorite parks, went out for ice cream, and even had a movie night complete with popcorn and all our favorite films. One of the highlights was meeting up with my old friends. We had planned to get together at a cafe we used to frequent in our high school days. As soon as I walked in and saw them, I felt like no time had passed at all. We hugged and laughed, immediately slipping back into our old rhythms. We spent hours catching up, reminiscing about the past, and sharing our dreams for the future. It felt good to reconnect, to know that even though we had all gone our separate ways, our friendship remained strong. But the most emotional moment of all came when I met Ethan, my long-distance boyfriend. We had been together for almost 7 years, 5 of which had been spent apart. We had managed to keep our relationship alive through countless video calls, messages, and the occasional visit. But seeing him in person after all this time was something else entirely. We decided to meet at the same park where we had our first date. As I walked towards him, my heart raced. When I finally saw him, standing there with that familiar smile, I couldn't hold back the tears. I ran to him and he wrapped his arms around me, holding me tight. For a while we just stood there, not needing to say anything. Being together was enough. We spent the rest of the day walking around the park, revisiting old memories and creating new ones. We talked about everything, our lives, our future, and how much we had missed each other. It was a day full of emotions, but mostly it was filled with love. I realized just how much I had missed him, how much he meant to me, and how strong our bond was, despite the distance. As my time in Toronto came to an end, I felt a mix of emotions. I was sad to leave, but at the same time, I felt incredibly grateful for the time I had spent with my family, friends, and Ethan. These days had reminded me of what truly matters in life: love, connection, and the people who make life worth living. Leaving home was hard, but I returned to Berlin with a heart full of memories that would keep me warm through the coldest days. My last morning at home was bittersweet. I woke up early, savoring every last moment in the house that had been my sanctuary for so many years. The familiar sounds of birds chirping outside, the smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen, and the comforting sight of my family going about their morning routines filled me with a deep sense of peace. My mom, as always, was up before everyone else, making breakfast. I joined her in the kitchen, wanting to spend a few more precious moments with her before I had to leave. She was making pancakes just the way I liked them, with blueberries and a touch of vanilla. The scent filled the kitchen, bringing back memories of lazy Sunday mornings from my childhood. "Morning, Bella," she greeted me with a warm smile, handing me a cup of coffee. "Morning, Mom," I replied, taking a sip. The coffee was perfect, rich and comforting. "I'm going to miss this so much." "You'll come back soon," she said, though there was a hint of sadness in her voice. "And when you do, we'll make even more memories." We sat down to eat, and soon the rest of the family joined us. The conversation was light and easy, but there was an unspoken understanding that this was our last meal together before I left. We all tried to make the most of it, laughing and joking as if nothing was about to change. When it was finally time to leave, my heart felt heavy. My dad helped me with my luggage, and we all gathered by the front door for one last goodbye. My mom hugged me tightly, whispering, "Take care of yourself, Bella. We love you so much." "I love you too, Mom," I whispered back, tears welling up in my eyes. I hugged my dad, who tried to stay strong, but I could see the emotion in his eyes as well. Sophia clung to me, not wanting to let go, and Liam gave me one last big brotherly hug. Ethan was there too, and saying goodbye to him was the hardest part. We had spent the last few days together, trying to make up for lost time, but it never felt like enough. We stood outside for a moment, holding hands, neither of us wanting to say the words that would end our time together. "Promise me we'll see each other soon," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise," I replied, squeezing his hand. "I'll come back as soon as I can." We shared a long, lingering kiss, trying to hold on to the moment for as long as possible. When we finally pulled away, I could see the sadness in his eyes, but also the love and determination to make our relationship work, no matter the distance. As I got into the taxi and looked back at my family and Ethan, all standing together waving goodbye, I felt an overwhelming mix of emotions. Sadness at leaving, but also immense gratitude for the love that surrounded me. I knew I was lucky to have such an amazing support system, and that thought gave me strength as I headed back to Berlin. The flight back felt different. I wasn't just returning to my life in Berlin. I was carrying a piece of home with me, a warmth that I hadn't felt in a long time. I spent the flight reflecting on the time I had spent in Toronto, replaying every moment in my mind like a favorite movie. I thought about my mom's comforting presence, my dad's quiet strength, Liam's playful teasing, Sophia's infectious laughter, and Ethan's unwavering love. Each memory was a treasure that I would carry with me, no matter where I went. When I arrived back in Berlin, it was late at night, and the city was quiet. As I stepped into my apartment, I felt a strange sense of calm. The place looked the same as I had left it, clean, organized, and welcoming. But something was different. I felt a new sense of belonging not just to this place, but to both worlds, Berlin and Toronto. I spent the next few days adjusting back to my routine, but with a renewed energy. I found myself smiling more, feeling more connected to the people around me. I called my family and Ethan as often as I could, sharing little details about my day, just as they did with me. The distance didn't feel as daunting anymore because I knew that no matter where I was, I had a home to return to. A home filled with love, laughter, and the people who meant everything to me. As weeks turned into months, I threw myself into my work with a new passion. My experiences at home had given me a fresh perspective, and I felt more motivated than ever to succeed in my career. I took on new challenges, learned new skills, and even started a side project I had been putting off for years. A blog where I shared my experiences as an expat, hoping to connect with others who might be going through the same journey. But despite the busyness of my life in Berlin, I made sure to take time for myself, to remember the lessons I had learned during my visit home. I continued to nurture the relationships that mattered most to me, and I made plans to visit Toronto again as soon as possible. I knew that no matter how far I traveled, no matter how much time passed, my family and Ethan would always be there, waiting for me with open arms. In the end, that trip back home was more than just a vacation. It was a reminder of who I was, where I came from, and what truly mattered in life. It was a day filled with joy, tears, and love, a day that I would never forget. And though life continued to move forward, that memorable day stayed with me, guiding me through the challenges and triumphs that lay ahead. It was a day that reminded me of the power of family, the importance of staying connected to our roots, and the beauty of coming home. And so, as I sat in my apartment in Berlin, looking out at the city lights, I felt a deep sense of contentment. I was living my dream, building a life in a city I loved, but I was also anchored by the love and memories of the home I had left behind. I knew that no matter where life took me, I would always carry that day with me. A day that reminded me of the strength of family, the joy of reunion, and the simple, beautiful truth that home is where the heart is.